overseen by a high priest, served the god, and his spouse supervised the holiday celebrations and handled the rites of offerings, sacrifices, and prayers to the gods. Art and sculpture, music and dance, poetry and hymns, above all, writing and record keeping flourished in the temples and extended to the royal place.
Over here.
The royal palace, rather. From time to time, one of those cities was selected to serve as the land's capital. There the ruler was King Lugal, the great man. Initially, and for a long time thereafter, this person, the most powerful man in the land, served as both king and high priest. He was carefully chosen for his role and authority, and all physical symbols of kingship were deemed to have come to earth directly from heaven, from on a Nibiru. A Sumerian text dealing with the subject stated that before symbols of kingship, the tiara, the crown, and the scepter, and of righteousness, the shepherd's staff, were granted to an earthly king, they lay deposited before Anu in heaven. Indeed, the Sumerian word for kingship was anuship. The aspect of kingship as the essence of civilization, just behavior, and a moral code for mankind was explicitly expressed in the statement in the Sumerian king list that after the deluge, kingship was brought down from heaven. It was a profound statement that must be borne in mind as we progress in this book to the messianic expectations of the words of the New Testament for the return of the kingship of heaven to earth. Let's get into the end of days now. Picking up where we left off last night, circa 3100 BCE, a similar yet not identical civilization was established in the second region in Africa, that of the river Nile, Nubia, and Egypt.
All right.
Its history was not as harmonious as that of the Inlalites, for rivalry and contention continued among Enki's 6 sons, to whom not cities but whole land domains were allocated. Paramount was an ongoing conflict between Enki's firstborn, Marduk, also known as Ra in Egypt, and Ningishzida, Thoth in Egypt, a conflict that led to the exile of both Thoth
I could get my other bottle ready to
African
go.
followers to the New World,
I'm running out in this one.
where he became known as Quetzalcoatl, the winged serpent. And that's where my research has taken me on the rock wall thing, because that's what it appears that's what it appears this time period in which the rock wall was created was that time period in which Thoth and his band of African followers came to the New World, and when he became known as Quetzalcoatl, the winged serpent. Marduk Ra himself was punished and exiled when opposing the marriage of his young brother Dumuzi to Enlil's granddaughter, Inanna and Ishtar. He caused his brother's death. It was as compensation to Inanna Ishtar that she was granted dominion over the third region of civilization, that of the Indus Valley, circa 2900 BCE. It was for good reason that the 3 civilizations, as was the spaceport in the sacred region, were all centered on the 30th parallel north. According to Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki established kingship, civilization, and its institutions, as most clearly exemplified in Mesopotamia, as a new order in their relationships with mankind, with kings, priests serving both as a link and a separator between gods and men. But as one looks back on that seemingly golden age in the affairs of gods and men, it becomes evident that the affairs of gods constantly dominated and determine the affairs of men.
I guess we're back.
And the fate of mankind. Overshadowing all was the determination of Marduk or Ra to undo the injustice done to his father Ea, Enki. When under the succession rules of the Anunnaki, not Enki but Enlil was declared the legal heir of their father Anu, the ruler on their home planet Nibiru. And according with the sexagesimal mathematical system that the gods granted the Sumerians, the 12 great gods of the Sumerian pantheon were given numerical rank, in which Anu held the supreme rank of 60. The rank of 50 was granted to Enlil, that of Enki was 40, and so farther down, alternating between male and female deities. Under the succession rules, Enlil's son Nerta was in line for the rank of 50 on earth. When Marduk held a nominal rank of 10, initially these two successors in waiting were not yet part of the 12 Olympians. And so the long, bitter, and relentless struggle by Marduk that began with Enlil in Enkidu focused later on Marduk's contention with Enlil's son Ninurta for the succession to the rank of 50, and extended to Enlil's granddaughter, who was Inanna and also known as Ishtar, whose marriage to Dumuzi, Enki's youngest son, was so opposed by Marduk that it ended with Dumuzi's death. In time, Marduk faced conflicts even with other brothers and half-brothers of his, in addition to the conflict with Thoth that we've already mentioned, principally with Enki's son Nergal, who married a granddaughter of Enlil named Ereshkigal. In the course of these struggles, the conflicts at times flared up to full-fledged wars between the two divine clans. Some of these wars are called the Pyramid Wars in my book, The Wars of Gods and Men. In one notable instance, the fighting led to the burying alive of Marduk inside the Great Pyramid. In another, it led to its capture by Ninurta. Marduk was also exiled more than once, both as a punishment and a self-imposed absence. His persistent efforts to attain the status to which he believed he was entitled included the event recorded in the Bible as the Tower of Babel incident. But in the end, after numerous frustrations, success came only when heaven and earth were aligned with the messianic plot. Indeed, the first cataclysmic set of events in the 21st century BCE and the messianic expectations that accompanied it is principally the story of Marduk, that also brought to center stage his son Nabu, a deity, the son of a god, but whose mother was an earthling. Throughout the history of Sumer, that spanned almost 2,000 years, its royal capital shifted from the first one, Kish, Ninurta's first city, to Erech, the city that Anu granted to Inanna and Ishtar, to Ur, Sin's seat of sinner and worship. Then to others.
So how we doing? The chat working?
Finally, for the third time, back to Ur. But at all times in Little City Nippur, his cult center,
looks like,
as scholars won't call it, remained the religious center of Sumer and Sumerian
hope
people.
y'all can hear well.
It was there that the annual cycle of worshiping the gods was determined. The 12 Olympians of the Sumerian pantheon, each with his or her celestial counterpart among the 12 members of the solar system, the sun, the moon, and 10 planets, including Nibiru, were also honored with 1 month each in the annual cycle of the 12-month year. The Sumerian term for month, Izan, actually means holiday, festival, and each such month was devoted to celebrating the worship festival of one of the 12 supreme gods. It was the need to determine the exact time when each such month began and ended, not in order to enable peasants to know when to sow or harvest, as schoolbooks explain, that led to the introduction of mankind's first calendar in 3760 BCE. It is known as the calendar of Nippur, because it was the task of its priests to determine the calendar intricate timetables to announce for the whole land the time of the religious festivals. The calendar is still in use to this day. The Jewish religious calendar, which in AD 2007 numbers the year in pre-diluvial times, Nippur served as mission control center. Enlil's command post, where he set up the Duran Key, the bond of heaven and earth for communications with the home planet, Nibiru, and with the spacecraft connecting them. After the deluge, these functions were relocated to a place later known as Jerusalem. Its center position, equidistant from the other functional centers in the union, were also deemed to be equidistant from the four corners of the earth, and gave it the nickname Navel of the Earth. A hymn to Enlil referred to Nippur and its functions thus as this: Enlil, when you marked off divine settlements on earth, Nippur you set up as your very own city. You founded the Duran Key in the center of the four corners of the earth. The term the four corners of the earth is also found in the Bible. And when Jerusalem replaced Nippur as mission control center after the deluge, it too was nicknamed the navel of the earth. In Sumerian, the term for the four regions of the earth was Ub, but it was also found as Anu, the heavenly, the celestial four corners. In this case, an astronomical term connected with the calendar. It is taken to refer to the 4 points in the Earth-Sun cycle and the annual cycle that we nowadays call the summer solstice, the winter solstice, and the 2 crossings of the equator. One as the spring equinox and then as the autumnal equinox. In the calendar of Nippur, the year began on the day of the spring equinox, and it has so remained in the ensuing calendars of the ancient Near East. That determined the time of the most important festival of the year, the New Year Festival, an event that lasted 10 days during which detailed and canonized rituals had to be followed. Determining calendrical time by heliacal rising.
Can y'all type in chat? I
entitled the
can't see
observation
any
of the
chat
skies at
going on.
dawn.
I don't see any
When
fucking.
the sun just
You know
begins to
what? We're
rise
gonna
on the
start
eastern
this one
horizon,
again.
the skies are still dark enough to show the stars in the background. The day of the equinox having been determined by the fact